nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different, even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice, made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
It's the 14th of June 2022, another Tuesday right here. Good morning, Uganda. Thank you for being with us as early as today. Well, I must say that yes, we are excited, or at least we are in such a very good anticipatory mode. Why? Well, because the national budget is expected to be read out today. And I must say, the question on every Ugandan lip right now, or at least the questions that are lingering in people's minds are, could this be a people budget for quite a long, I mean, this has been foreseen, this has been wished for by very many Ugandans wanting to know if this budget is going to be favoring us. Well, also very many questions that are hoping to be answered by this budget. For example, will the fuel prices be talked about in this budget? Will the commodity prices be talked about in this budget? Well, I must say I am not in a better position to answer that, but let's wait and see what will be happening. Lucky for you, this entire procession will be aired right here on UBC TV, so make sure you don't go anywhere if you want all these answers to these questions. My name is Philomena Mastiko. Good Morning Uganda officially starts right about now, and it's a full house right here with Robert Kirabo, Nyonyintono and Mollen, Kenyena, to feed you on some of the stories that have been happening. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Philo. Good morning, Mollen, and of course, our lovely viewers. Thank you so much for waking up with us. Now, the budget reading is today, and I know a number of Ugandans are eager to hear what is contained there. But of course, with the way things are done now, usually I know what the budget is all about,
yes,
if you've been inquisitive. And just a hint to Ugandans, something you should note out very well, is that we are going to fund this budget. 54% is domestic revenue. What does that mean? That 54% of the budget is money being or going to be gotten from you.
Robert, although somebody would ask, does Uganda have the potential to have all that revenue to fund that percentage of the budget?
And the budget is to a tune of about, that is 48.1
yes,
trillion, coming from the budget of 44.7 trillion. Now, away from 54% domestic revenue,
yes,
now there is 27% domestic borrowing. What does that mean? That government is going to borrow within home domestically. We are not going to look at these loans to a tune of 27%. Now, for the business community, government is going to go where you borrow from.
Yes.
And it's going to borrow from there. And what this means is any lender would want to lend government compared to the private sector. Why? Because with government, you are assured of getting your money. So, tighten your belt.
Well, I must say that this is clearly not starting off on a good note, especially for the business community. But again, I believe there is some green light at the end of the tunnel. Good morning, Mollen.
Yes, a very good morning to you, Philomena and Robert, and of course our family out there. And you know, we always have high anticipation for the budget, but I don't know, somehow for this year it seems like the mood is down. I don't know whether it has something to do with you know, the raging prices that are going up and up. But when you talk about domestic revenue, we also have to realize that Uganda, as a day, our dates are increasing each and every day. And at this point, I think the question on every Ugandan should be, are we able to recover from these dates? Because the more we fund our budgets, even from the dates, it's going to keep increasing. And Philomena, what I noticed while on the topic, there is something that URA did come out to say.
Yes.
They have recovered 79 billion, and that is from the smuggled goods, seizing the smuggled goods.
Yes. For this financial year?
Yes, for this financial year. I'm like, okay, so how is this still among, our closure of URA getting into dealing with that? But I think it's a good move, and I want to commend URA for doing that, because we do know that people would want to take things out of the country, even inside the country, without being taxed. But the good thing that tax money is always there to make sure you actually pay.
Maybe this
but
is
you know
even
what is
why...
very interesting about that is that a number of what they recovered as smuggled actually are products that were banned from Uganda.
Yes.
Those cosmetics, they are those that are not supposed to be used in Uganda.
Yes.
So even when you recover them, why are you going to sell them? So you've gotten them, yes, they have been smuggled into the country,
yes,
but you can't sell them.
It's already illegal as it is.
It's already illegal, but the malpractice right there, and also the penalties that are put across, you're still going to be answerable to the taxman in that way, even when those goods cannot be sold. But also you have to remember that the big part of that is are these goods that are actually sold within the country. And of course,
Garments.
when they are, exactly. So when they're taxed, they're able to actually circulate into the population, but at the same time you're paying for it. And that's where you maintain the chain. Yeah,
it's really, really, sad.
Philo, before I forget, we must remind Ugandans that when the president ascended to the Landlord and Tenants Act of 2022, he did to the Electricity Amendment Act as well. So now it is, if you're found stealing electricity, Banange, you people tampering with your meter.
Calling, what do you usually call those people? Kamufo, is it Kamufo?
Yes. Passing wires underground for you to get electricity.
Because you don't want to be accountable,
because you don't want to
pay, you don't
for
want
the electricity you're using.
Yes.
The law is very clear. 15 years imprisonment. All you pay 1 billion.
Oh wow.
Now
in this economy, Roberts,
15 years imprisonment.
1 billion Ugandan shillings and 15 years of imprisonment.
Or the judge can be very lenient, patriotic, and desires to give you both. So
make sure you're not guilty of that offense, because at this point there is a lot.
So you have to pay 1 billion Ugandan shillings and then also go to prison for 15 years.
So at the discretion of the judge, he can say, he can, pay 1 billion and go.
But you know what, Robert?
How many Ugandans would pay 1 billion?
Robert.
So you end up having 15 years jail sentence. And it's very easy to prove. You know, electricity theft is something very easy to prove in court. Simply the videos are taken, it is you, it is your premise.
But I'm very happy because this is quite a very heavy punishment. Very, very heavy. And honestly, for any sane Ugandan, for any sane individual, if you look at that and you weigh the scale, there is none that you would rather do. You would
many people
you would rather not do one. And you see, the most sad thing, and I'm not saying that other people who have the capability of paying this money don't do it, but I mean when you look at our ordinary Ugandans, who by the way are full prone, I mean they are culprits of this. So an ordinary Ugandan whose house income is, I can't even mention it, and you're caught in an act like that, and why are you going to get 1 billion Ugandan shillings?
15 years jail sentence serves.
Well, I'm sure this comes in handy, but also I must say that things that are not really going so well, especially for our people around the Bunagana post. Now, yesterday we did see some news making rounds showing that, well, it hasn't been so well, especially after the M23 rebels decided to take over Bunagana town, especially for the part of the Democratic Republic of Congo. But you see, the sad thing is that as if this is not bad enough, we had their security operatives, we had their police also vacate to Uganda for the fear of their lives. Now, I had questions lingering in my mind, questions like, so what happens to the Congolese nationals over there? I mean, if the people who are supposed to protect them are also fleeing to the Bunagana side of Uganda, what happens to these, to the residents of Congo?
These soldiers, about 150, that product that crossed to Uganda. You know, when you're overpowered, you're overpowered.
Yes, that's true.
If you don't have the manpower, rather than engaging, and because these people are using guns, not stones.
Yes.
So rather than engaging and losing your life, you flee. But I was watching a clip when one of the was speaking, saying, all we want is to discuss with government. They are telling people, come back, we're not going to destroy property, we're not going to hurt anybody, please come back. And funny enough, even the Congolese, some never wanted to cross over. So they were within the vicinity of the border, huge bushes there, believing the situation is going to normalize. But the truth is, we cannot continue being that good girl who okay, usually in my culture they say, you know, a mango tree along the roadside, everyone will stone to get a mango from it.
Yes.
So with our refugee policy, good, we are praised, but something has to be done. This influx, we are going to reach a point when we cannot accommodate, not even our donor partners.
Yes, because
We must
already we've
find a
been
light-
having, yes,
Yeah.
we've already been having conflicts amongst our own people, or between the refugees and the people there in that specific area. You know, we've had conflicts over land, we've had conflicts about resources. You know, there've been also reports that resources are really running out to be, I mean, to be able to cater for 2 people. We are talking about the Abatuze of that entire place and the refugee community. So it's going to be
Even
a
World
hard
Food
one.
Program has reduced ratios
Absolutely.
of food that it is giving. So we must find a permanent solution. As the East African community,
Yes.
if our brother is having a problem, must have a standard force ready to say you're rebels. If dialogue cannot work, then wipe them out.
Wow. Yeah, but also you have to consider that there is the international humanitarian law that comes in to protect people in the middle ground of that. So yes, the rebels are there, yes, the survivors from all that war are there, but there has to be a middle ground, and at that point it's not about wiping them out. It's really sad that we have got into a situation where the refugees really cannot have enough because of you know, running out of resources. But Philomena, I want to bring in some good news, something that was happening across the country, and
Okay.
Everyone is talking about the aftermath of Masindi. After the Bull FC did hammer Vipers FC,
Yes.
and I saw a headline that was saying the venomless Vipers, now they are venomless. They are having titled themselves as the Venoms. But these guys were beaten, and you know, Bull FC did come close to get their championship, and that is when it comes to the Stanbic Bank, whatever cup. And I'm thinking, okay, whatever happened in Masindi has crossed over to the whole country. And of course it was a well-deserved win, and these guys have not had that cup ever since they started,
Yes.
you know, the games, and for them it was victory, the first time that they were getting that cup. But also on an international scene, recently the Queen Elizabeth was celebrating, you know, her 7th century reign.
Yes.
But as of yesterday, she actually broke record as the 2nd longest serving monarch in the world. And that is, of course, having taken that from the King of Thailand,
Yes.
who was taking the 2nd title. But now, the only person who is ahead of her is France's king, that was King Louis, who also served for 72 years. But now
Yes.
the Queen is getting to 70 years and 129 days. That makes her the 2nd longest serving monarch in the world. And I'm like, wow. So people are bringing in old pictures of her when
Yes.
she, you know, ascended to the throne. That was at 25. And I'm telling you, it seems like all this year we're going to be celebrating the Queen of England.
Well, considering that this is the same year, so the celebrations may be carried throughout, you know, all year round. And I saw quite a number of people hoping and praying that she spends quite some more years
She
and
lives for a
breaks all
century.
these records.
Yeah.
Yes, so
She
hopefully,
can make it.
hopefully
But
she'll
she lives
make
for a
it.
century, you know, dying, living for 100 years.
It's not, you know, a walk in the park right now. And also when you look at the different life expectancies of several countries, they go reducing, of course, day by day, years by years, because of very many other things. I am pretty sure Mollen, in this instance, would come in with climate change, which also is a very big contributing factor to the reduction of life expectancies, especially in most of these countries. So we hope this lady, you know, Her Majesty, makes it to 100 years.
And hopefully she gets 2 more to at least break that
Actually,
record that
I like
the
Prince
French
William's
king
speech
has taken
when
on.
he tried to hit that longevity on about a century.
Yes.
Then my grandmother's lived for almost a century. And I was like, wow.
Well, we could go on and on and on. Like we already said, there's quite a whole lot that is happening here in Uganda, in the East African region, on the African continent, outside the African continent. I mean, you can always bank on us to be giving you all that is happening. And of course, that is quite informative for you every single morning. But for now, we'll be taking you through some of the stories that we did have on our news desk yesterday. And of course, starting off with some of the stories that did happen here at home. Robert.
If you're to listen carefully to this first story this morning, because it is a warning from the Ministry of Health where COVID-19 cases are on a rise, and it is upon you to ensure you go back to the standard operating procedures. Now, Ministry of Health has confirmed the resurging in the number of COVID-19 cases. Over 1,000 positive cases were registered, majority of whom are under home-based care, with at least 6 people admitted. The ministry's spokesperson, Emmanuel Inebiona, said there has been a build-up of the numbers of COVID-19 cases, which calls for vigilancy and population adapting back to the Ministry of Health preventive guidelines. The public must wear face masks, wash hands with soap, use of hand sanitizers, avoid crowded places, and maintain safe distancing. However, there are high chances of cases spreading further if the public does not avert to the standard operating procedures. He calls on people who haven't been vaccinated to get vaccinated, as well as high-risk population groups who have not received the booster doses to do so.
Now, in another story, over 150 armed forces from Democratic Republic of Congo, FARDC, have reportedly fled into Uganda. Now, UPDF has also deployed heavily at Bunagana border to prevent the war from entering Uganda. Gunfire at Bunagana border has forced a big number of Congolese to enter the country. Now, there has been heavy UPDF and police deployment to prevent fighting to cross into Uganda. The border has also been taken over by rebels who are patrolling the town of Congolese side. Now, the situation at the border has forced more than 30,000 civilians to flee to Bunagana. There are also allegations that FARDC soldiers have fled into Uganda. Now, businesses at the border have been closed. According to Daniel Chisamo in the office of the Prime Minister, Nyakawande Holding Center says they can accommodate all the refugees. By press time, M23 rebels were heard firing bullets in the air as they conquered Bunagana border. Now, this border is the main connection of Uganda to Rutushuru and Goma towns in Rutushuru territory. Now, thousands of Congolese are converging to the border line as they wait for the announcement of the rebels either to allow them to go back to DRC or keep at the border. Travelers are not supposed to be crossing over to DRC, and they are just parked at Uganda Bunagana Parkyard.
And we now cross over to the Guest House under the Kosase Committee, where the Deputy Permanent Secretary for Ministry of Finance and Secretary to the Treasury, Patrick Ochaliap, has conceded before Kosase that he approved in error the controversial 10.6 billion supplementary budget for compensation of 6 land claimants. The committee also quizzed the former PSST, Keith Mohankanizi, who pleaded innocent to the transaction while appearing before the Parliamentary Committee on Commissions, Statutory Authorities and State Enterprises, Kosase. Former Secretary to the Treasury, Keith Mohankanizi, dissociated himself from the controversial 10.6 billion that was irregularly initiated by the former Minister for Lands, Betty Kamya, to pay off 6 claimants, of whom some are said to be ghost claimants. Mohankanizi told the committee that he was away on sick leave when the supplementary was processed and executed. The committee then tasked the Deputy Secretary to the Treasury, Patrick Ochaliap, who also deputized Mohankanizi, then to explain the matter. Ochaliap apologized that he approved the irregularly supplementary budget in error because he did not see the said presidential directive that was quoted by the former minister Betty Kamya, now the IGG, in requesting the Ministry of Finance to avail funds for the 6 claimants without knowledge of the accounting officer and the Uganda Land Commission. The 10.6 billion was used to compensate beneficiaries who included Kasia Rubukuruku, who got 6.43 billion for the land in Kiyuga in Shema district, and Stephen Peter Nagenda of Kibale, who got 1.6, Julius Busura, who got 1.4, and Natalie Namoli, who got 1.6 billion shillings.
Moving on, police are investigating the matter of public nuisance where pupils of Rubiri High School were in humorous dance while traveling to Jinja. A police spokesperson, Fred Enanga, says the Directorate of Criminal Investigation is investigating the school and the owner of the bus Over the weekend, a video of Rubiri High School spread on different social media platforms, traveling in Midland Secondary School bus while dancing. Now, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations has started investigating the act it terms as public nuisance. Now, the administration of Rubiri High School will provide information concerning the trip and the tour supervision team. Schools are advised to reactivate vigilance teams for proper observance of students' behavior. Now, in other stories related to police briefing, security has cautioned politicians for fueling the upper conflict between Akoli and Madi Ninzoka area. Politicians in this region are accused of using different media platforms to spread hate. And in another development, security have arrested Monica Kairu, a Kenyan national, over torturing a maid to a near death. And the police weekly crime report has indicated an increase in cases of child murder emanating from domestic violence.
Now, looking at some of the international stories, we start off with the UK government has published plans to get rid of parts of the post-Brexit deal it agreed with the European Union in 2019. It wants to change the Northern Ireland Protocol to make it easier for some goods to flow from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. But the EU opposes the move, saying that going back on the deal breaches international law. The government said there is no other way of safeguarding essential interests of the UK. It argues the term necessity is used in international law to justify situations where the only way a state can safeguard an essential interest is by disapplying or breaking another international obligation. It adds that action taken must not seriously impair essential interests of other states. The alterations are set out in the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill to be debated and voted on by Parliament. The government is promising to remove unnecessary paperwork on goods, checks, and that businesses in Northern Ireland will get the same tax breaks as those elsewhere in the UK. Now, looking at how to murder your husband, writer who was sentenced for murdering husband, murder she wrote, and for murder she's going to jail. An Oregon judge has sentenced Nancy Crampton Brophy, a romance author who apparently foretold of her crime in an essay titled How to Murder Your Husband, to life in prison for the shooting death of her late spouse. Crampton Brophy, 71, was found guilty of second-degree murder last month. A jury found that she shot her husband of 26 years in 2018 for a $1.5 million life insurance payout. Before her crime, Crampton Brophy had been a self-published author whose works of steamy romance and suspense include novels such as The Wrong Husband and The Wrong Lover. Her late husband, Daniel Brophy, was a chef and respected teacher at the Oregon Culinary Institute. He was found shot twice in the kitchen of the institute in June back in 2018. His widow was convicted of the murder last month. The case attracted much attention for an essay Crampton Brophy had written years before the crime, titled How to Murder Your Husband. Well, getting back in Africa right here, the government's first flight taking asylum seekers to Rwanda can go ahead on Tuesday, appellate court judges say. It supports a previous decision by the High Court that it was in the public interest for the government to carry out its policies. Under the scheme, some of those entering the UK illegally will be flown to Rwanda to apply for asylum there. Campaigners were trying to stop the flight before a full hearing on whether the policy is lawful next month. The Charity Detention Action and the PCS Union that represents some border force staff who were among the groups who brought the case say they were disappointed by the decision. 8 people are expected to fly to the landlocked East African country on Tuesday evening, a Home Office source told the BBC. The numbers are drastically reduced after legal challenges relating to modern slavery and human rights claims, according to a government source. The Rwanda hotels are waiting to cash in on UK asylum deal.
In the weather and climate news, we beg God for water. The Chilean lake turns to desert, sounding a climate change alarm. Now, the Peñuelan's Reservoir in central Chile was, until 20 years ago, the main source of water for the city of Valparaiso, holding enough water for 38,000 Olympic-sized swimming pool. Now, water for only 2 pools now remains. A huge expanse of dried and cracked earth that was once the lake bed in littered with fish skeleton and desperate animals searching for water. Amid a historical 13-year drought, rainfall levels have slumped in the South American nation that hugs the continent's Pacific coast. Higher air temperatures have meant snow in the Andes and once a key store of melt water for spring and summer. Now this is compacting and melting faster and turning straight to vapor. The drought has hit mine output in the world's largest copper producer, stock tension over water use for lithium and farming, and the led capital Santiago to make unprecedented plans for potential water rationation. Now we beg that God will have to send water, said Amanda Carrasco, a 54-year-old who lives near Peñuela Reservoir and recalls line fishing in the waters for local fish. Now, I've seen it like this, and there has been less water before, but not like now, she says.
Well, also speaking about boosting your health, we are seeing all these warnings that are coming in from the Ministry of Health asking you to be able to keep those SOPs running and active because, well, if you had any doubts, if you had any questions, I must say that the matters have now been brought into a more clarified view. So you have to do what you have to do, especially for your health. Now, speaking of health, Robert, what are we looking at this morning?
Well, the thing is back. It is on an increase. That is COVID-19. First, go and get vaccinated.
Yes.
Because the vaccine will boost your immune system. If you're 50 and above, go for that booster dose. Then here comes these two darlings. Hallelujah, ginger tea, hallelujah, tamarind drink. Now what these do, they boost your immune system. They're not a treatment, they're not a cure, but they're immune boosters. At just 1,500, hey, go and get any of these. You'll thank me later.
Well, also in the morning poll question, we want to find out some of your expectations, especially in relation to the new budget that is expected to be read later on today. What are your expectations from the new budget that is going to be read today? Now, this is, of course, for the financial year 2022-2023. Which sectors do you think will be allocated more money, or which sectors would you want to be allocated more money? And I mean, which sectors are you not happy? What budget slashes are you not happy with? Or do you expect in this budget all that? We expect you to be giving us on our social media feed. The hashtag is GMU, and we'll be sharing all those with the rest of our Good Morning Uganda family. But we are going in for an inspirational song for this Tuesday morning. When we get back, of course, we'll be having the Good Morning Uganda newsreel, where we'll be talking about the report that was recently released by the Uganda Human Rights Commission for 2021. We'll be getting into the details, what made us happy, what made us mad, what disappointed us. All this will be in discussion in the next hour. Good morning. We'll be back.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
This goes out to the world. This goes out to the stress. Sorting out a million thoughts running through your...
It's the 14th of June 2022, another Tuesday right here. Good morning, Uganda. Thank you for being with us as early as today. Well, I must say that yes, we are excited, or at least we are in such a very good anticipatory mode. Why? Well, because the national budget is expected to be read out today. And I must say, the question on every Ugandan lip right now, or at least the questions that are lingering in people's minds are, could this be a people budget for quite a long, I mean, this has been foreseen, this has been wished for by very many Ugandans wanting to know if this budget is going to be favoring us. Well, also very many questions that are hoping to be answered by this budget. For example, will the fuel prices be talked about in this budget? Will the commodity prices be talked about in this budget? Well, I must say I am not in a better position to answer that, but let's wait and see what will be happening. Lucky for you, this entire procession will be aired right here on UBC TV, so make sure you don't go anywhere if you want all these answers to these questions. My name is Philomena Mastiko. Good morning, Uganda officially starts right about now, and it's a full house right here with Robert Kirabo, Nyonyintono, and Mollen, Kenyena, to feed you on some of the stories that have been happening. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Philo. Good morning, Mollen, and of course, our lovely viewers. Thank you so much for waking up with us. Now, the budget reading is today, and I know a number of Ugandans are eager to hear what is contained there. But of course, with the way things are done now, usually I know what the budget is all about,
yes,
if you've been inquisitive. And just a hint to Ugandans, something you should note out very well, is that we are going to fund this budget. 54% is domestic revenue. What does that mean? That 54% of the budget is money being or going to be gotten from you.
Robert, although somebody would ask, does Uganda have the potential to have all that revenue to fund that percentage of the budget?
And the budget is to a tune of about, that is 48.1
yes,
trillion, coming from the budget of 44.7 trillion. Now, away from 54% domestic revenue,
yes,
now there's 27% domestic borrowing. What does that mean? That government is going to borrow within home domestically. We are not going to look at these loans to a tune of 27%. Now, for the business community, government is going to go where you borrow from.
Yes.
And it's going to borrow from there. And what this means is any lender would want to lend government compared to the private sector. Why? Because with government, you are assured of getting your money. So, tighten your belt.
Well, I must say that this is clearly not starting off on a good note, especially for the business community. But again, I believe there is some green light at the end of the tunnel. Good morning, Mollen.
Yes, a very good morning to you, Philomena and Robert, and of course our family out there. And you know, we always have high anticipation for the budget, but I don't know, somehow for this year it seems like the mood is down. I don't know whether it has something to do with you know, the raging prices that are going up and up. But when you talk about domestic revenue, we also have to realize that you
was brought to you by Simply deposit 20K or more on your mobile money for a chance to win 3 Toyota Succeeds and money to 2,000 lucky winners every week. We're giving away 24 cars and over 2 billion shillings of mobile money.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
When it comes to human rights, of course, every individual has human rights, and some of these definitely haven't really been realized by quite a number of Ugandans. At least this is according to a report that was released by the Uganda Human Rights Commission yesterday. Good morning, Uganda. Thank you for joining us for this very special segment that is the Good Morning Uganda newsreel, where we have a topical conversation, of course, talking about things that are happening in our societies, in our communities, and in our country at large. I am Philomena Mastiko, and I'm in the wise company of Robert Kirabo, Nyonyintono, and we're here to talk about some of the results or some of the provisions that came through under this report by the Uganda Human Rights Commission. But before we get into that, just a reminder of our poll question, where we do ask, what are your expectations from the new budget expected to be read today? What are your expectations from the new budget that is expected to be read today? And the hashtag is UBCGMU. You can also send us a message or a WhatsApp message, 0709 602 592. We'll be able to see your responses and we'll be sharing them with the rest of our Good Morning Uganda community. But for now, Robert, I must say that the report that came out yesterday, it has quite some appalling statistics, if I may say that. Now, of course, there is an increase in the number of complaints registered in 2021. And I mean, when I break down some of these statistics, a total of 3,624 complaints were received in the year 2021. Now, alleged human rights violations were 602 of those total complaints that were received. And when it comes to Uganda police, the complaints that were raised against them total up to 354, which is quite a big number for 1 year like this. And for the UPDF, we have about 135 complaints that were raised against them, and then 131 were raised against private individuals. And getting to Uganda Prison Service, the number is quite 15. Now, if we are to compare all these statistics for the year 2020, I must say there is quite a very huge increase in the, the statistics. And I mean, I would really want to find out from you, Robert, why are we seeing an increase in the year 2021, especially of all these complaints that were raised and also were presented in this very specific report?
Very interesting. First, we must understand that the Uganda Human Rights Commission was set up by an act of parliament and therefore by government. That is to do that watchdog role, a checking in terms of human rights violation. And we all know that human rights, by virtue of being a human being, these are God-given rights. But now when we look at most of the complaints that go to this commission, many of them we are talking about complaints where sometimes grievous harm was done to people's bodies and all that. Now, why we see an increase in 2021, most of these complaints were a result of political activity.
Yes.
We had a a very disturbing election. That was 2021. And remember, there were claims where some political analysts felt we wouldn't or we shouldn't have gone into an election at that time.
Yes.
Because we had COVID-19, and they were believing that maybe having campaigns, voting in that environment was something that was going to be hard, and therefore we could have postponed it. But others said, supposing we are in this situation for the next 5 years,
Yes.
what are we going to be having? So we rather hold elections, but under strict observancy of standard operating procedures. Now, this is where we had a gross, and I want to use that word, abuse of human rights by police. You remember how people would gather if they're not supposed to gather?
Yes.
Where even sometimes, I remember the NRM came out and told security officers and police that, why are you segregative in enforcement? Someone from the NRM will carry out a procession, hold this rally, then the opposition, once they step there, there is tear gas, there is whatever.
There is just immense chaos.
If you remember, that is when we had the most trying moment, when Nup presidential candidate was arrested. Remember the shooting that happened, people that lost their lives, 40 plus in this country. That day, that is still in the memory of many Ugandans.
Yes.
So 2021, because of the elections that we had at that time, and these were not the ordinary way that Ugandans were used to, standard operating procedures became a problem. Police would round up people, police would beat people in an effort to disperse them, and I want to say sometimes they didn't do this professionally, or because of the excitement. You know, politics, there's a way people get excited, that even under normal situations where they would just move away, they will throw stones at you because they think maybe you want to stop them to attain the win they would get politically.
Yes.
That was one. But also still that very year, we had operations aimed at enforcing the standard operating procedures. That's when we had curfew.
Yes.
Police were at the forefront. Some would be stopped, they don't want to stop.
Yes.
Other police would act in a manner that is very unprofessional.
Yes.
In terms of enforcing these SOPs. We had that problem.
Yes.
So 2021, unlike other years that we had politics, had enforcement of standard operating procedures, and to a big or a large extent, professionalism was compromised by police. Some were fatigued.
Yes.
Because that is the time I saw many police officers I've never seen. Actually, after COVID, I asked myself, where did the police officers go?
What happened to them?
Because by 7, they would be all over. And even though we had to be in houses,
yes,
but they would be all over. You just get out. You think I can drive from here without meeting. You meet many and...
But maybe also, Robert, considering that these standard operating procedures, they were really quite very tough on very many Ugandans, but also dealing with large masses of people. And I mean, we know our people, we know Ugandans. Sometimes they don't want to listen, even if it's for their own good. So you would probably say, because there are certain stubborn elements, you know, among us, the citizens, you would ideally need quite a huge deployment, if I must say that. I think that would explain why we're seeing all these huge numbers of police officers on the roads doing what they were supposed to do.
And very interesting also in that was that even to the security personnel, this was the first time they were faced with such a situation. That is when they issued a handbook. Remember?
Yes.
The IGP felt it wise to issue a handbook telling them how they must do certain things. Because it was a new experience. That they had, even in their training, I don't want to believe that they had training similar to that, much as they have the basics. Because this was the time when a police officer would get to the road at 6 and maybe leave 6 in the morning.
Yes.
You know, those roadblocks. Many people were harassed in those roadblocks, telling people to vacate premises, to go, leaving towns, leaving their workplaces, to go back home was also another challenge.
Yes.
So this being a new experience with the police, led to so many violations. And even the Ugandans are used to moving 24/7. So telling a person it is now 6, what are you still doing here? Close your shop, go home. So 2021 had politics and that COVID enforcement. That is one of the areas, and being new to police,
yes,
that explains, and security agencies, why they could have been more of these complaints.
I must say the scuffles were really endless between the civilians and the Uganda police force. On several occasions, every single day, you would hear a report, maybe probably from somebody you knew, somebody that you would watch on TV. I must say the numbers were really going high. But Robert, also over the years, aside from this report, when we look at even the report of 2020, we see that police has been named the worst perpetrator when it comes to the abuse of human rights. Why are we seeing this very specific sector of people? You would think that if the report says reports the same, maybe like in 2019, we don't expect to see the same results in 2020. Why? Because we are certain that the people who are supposed to do what they're supposed to do, or the people in certain positions, are supposed to get back to the root system of our police, Uganda police force, how they run, how they operate, and try to make sure that these statistics are really cut down, or at least we don't see our security operatives being named as the worst perpetrators, but consistently they're coming out as the bad people. 2019, 2020. Look at us, 2021. The report is quite evident on that. Why is the Uganda police force heavily immersed in these reports?
First, because of the nature of their work. That in all security agencies, for example, prisons, how often do they interact with people? UPDF, these guys are in barracks. Even when they come out, they're not going to interact with people oftenly. But police go to any police station. It's now coming to about a few minutes to 8. Already people are waiting. They are there. Daily police interfaces with the public. But that's not an excuse for them to violate human rights.
Yes.
However, because of their continuous association with people, then there are more possibilities that they may misbehave. But you asked why consecutively, because one would believe that this report would mean something to police. But I want to say, over a time, police has acted in defensive mode. Whenever these international bodies carry out these reports, and I'm waiting for Enanga's comment on this report.
Yes.
Most of the times, it will be in a defensive mode. So I want to believe police either has not taken this so very serious,
yes,
to ensure that they do not top this list. This is not a good thing. But also, one of the challenges we've had is disciplinary measures to be taken have been very minimal. So it's not something deterrent. Most of the times, police has protected its own in such areas. I want to tell you, much as to a small extent, they have gone ahead as parading, you know, where they parade, they take to the police disciplinary committee, but this is not deterrent enough. We've had, now social media has helped us.
Yes.
Sometimes there's those video footages that circulate and police can look at them and take action. But it's not that much. When you look at their professional standards unit situated in Bukoto, where a police officer that acts unprofessional should be investigated, then police takes action.
Yes.
It is more of defunct. At the time, it was very active during a man, I think was called John Dunguse. He once then headed the counterterrorism unit. I don't know now where he is. But you would file a case. Very soon judgment would be given. Action would be taken. Today it's like going to any other court. Then the other issue is, much as the law has changed, that people are supposed to be held responsible for their actions, not the institution. We've not seen police so much coming out like UPDF does it, to say these are individual actions. They identify the officers, they take them for the punishment.
Yes.
UPDF, if you have evidence of such, if you have evidence that these guys were in Chiseka market, these are people walloping these guys, in just weeks that the court martial, much India, sentenced, you know. With the police, they'll find ways. You see our officers were on mission. Then, do you know how many of our officers were hurt? We are also, so there's a way there.
Because they were actually, report doesn't talk about this. They're making it look like it's a one-sided kind of, report, and they feel like that is not fair to them.
Then other cases, they'll bring out, we were enforcing, but the rules of engagement. And we expect you to be professional at all ways in a way you're conducting yourself.
Yes.
Why you have that special training is you're not like an ordinary Kirabo who, when agitated, may think have to get a stone. We expect a police officer that even at certain levels you must. So to me, I feel the fact that they have not put deterrent punishments, they have not taken that very serious, is the reason they are still topping this list. Look at their brothers, the UPDF, and I want to emphasize this.
Yes.
UPDF, you're putting on that uniform, evidence is there that you tortured a civilian. Evidence is there. There were human rights violation. UPDF doesn't take that as a joke.
Yes.
Maybe because these are military, these are a bit, a bit civil, like. If police can take that toll, they will clean up. People will fear. You don't just go and beat people anyhow.
But even when you say that because these are military, Robert, these are all security operatives, and I believe they all undergo a certain type of training. So if an army person can behave in quite such a civic way, I mean, why wouldn't a policeman, why wouldn't a policewoman do this? So again, I believe that there is quite a whole lot of work that they need to do. Well, we are discussing the human rights report of 2021 that was released by the Uganda Human Rights Commission. And in this report, I must say that the police were named the worst perpetrators when it comes to the abuse of human rights. And this is the discussion we're trying to have right about now. But before we get into it any further, also reminding you of our poll question over here on our Twitter, and that is, what are your expectations from the new budget that is going to be read today? What are your expectations from the new budget that is going to be read today? Now, Robert, as we look at this report, we have seen why 2021 is the year that we are seeing quite a very heavy increment in the number of cases, especially those that have been filed against the police, and we've also established why. But also, seeing as that we are having very many gaps, especially in our police, what would be the ideal thing to do to cut down on these crimes? Because it has been, rather on these cases, it has been consistent. You see, if it was a one-time thing, you can probably let it pass, come in with more maybe strict regulations and move on to another thing. But if it keeps happening continuously, then that definitely points out the fact that there are certain things that are maybe just being ignored, or these reports or these cases are not drawing any they're not invoking the actions that would be expecting from a security operatives like this, because Uganda police plays quite a heavy role in our societies. But if we are seeing them being portrayed in this picture consistently, there is a very big problem. Now, what would be the ideal way to deal with such or to cover up these gaps?
First, police should learn to surrender their own to face justice, so that it is a sign of deterrence to others in the force, like the UPDF usually does, because there's that bit of concealing, defending,
yes,
which I feel sometimes is not worth it. So if they don't check themselves on that. Two, the issue of human rights in the training must be very emphasized.
Yes.
Because now we are in a dot-com era. Now we are in a time where everyone is a journalist. You know, everyone has a camera, everyone has a phone. All these, it is easy to capture these moments than ever before.
Yes.
Previously, many of these maybe would go under unnoticed. But today, anything you do, even when you think there is nobody, you just find it on social media circulating. And this has an impact on the image of the force and the trust that people will have in you. These are good statistics if you want to deepen your relationship with the public.
Yes.
That when you come to save a situation, because police, you must work with the public, but what do they have about you? If you're consecutively, then you won't have that. But also, we must ensure that there is more community policing. Police should go down to the people to talk about human rights. Let the public know their rights. Let police exercise that. Because some of these happen out of ignorance.
Yes.
A person comes and says, well, we want to go with you to police to record a statement. Sometimes where even the person can bring themselves. You've come at someone's home, he's a person of noble character. Why do you manhandle that person? But also ignorance could be on the side of that person, thinking that when you go to record a statement, you know you're going to be arrested.
Yes.
You're going to be arrested. Yet, you're not even a suspect. They just want information from you. The person says, I'm not going to go. Most of these complaints are registered during elections. You find that maybe people are just not knowledgeable enough. But finally, there's also excitement. There's excitement. Sometimes you look at some of these incidents, you wonder, why are these people charged to this extent? The police.
Yes.
So training has to be deepened for people to know, just like the UPDF, there is a way the word Nyonyintono, you know, there is a way a soldier of UPDF understands that this is our power.
Yes.
The ordinary Ugandan is our strength, they are our masters. How do we bring that doctrine, that ideology into police, which I find sometimes is lacking to understand? The top hierarchy knows it very well.
Yes.
But go down, that is where you're going to be disappointed. You must know you're serving these Ugandans. They're your masters. And Ugandans also, you must know you have a duty. You move around, so sensitization on human rights, both people to know the rights of the police officers. This is a man in uniform with a national flag representing the state. But also you're representing the state. These are the people that are your masters, that you're serving, that are buying right from the boots to whatever you're putting on. So respect them. We'll just lack that way. How do we carry on sensitization for all people, for the communities, for the public, and for the officers to know that each other has rights and each other's rights must be respected? But the excitement is so much, more so in junior officers. Let's go and arrest a person, you know, recently I saw a family.
Yes.
Because you're looking for the son who is suspected to have had a hand in a robbery. You come, you know, take the father, take the mother, take the sisters, take the whole family. You leave the house even when the doors are not locked.
Yes. Because actually part of the report also highlights the enforced, you know, disappearances of people, and even without fair trials, all this was talked about in this report. I mean, what can we do?
When I was listening to that report, I don't want to take that on police. You know, you have a number of security agencies, and that kind of disappearance they're talking about. Remember the time the word drone surfaced? Where people would be picked, and then they are taken. Some, that is the report is talking about.
Yes.
Some families up today will tell you, for us, we don't know. Either their allegations are right, but now when the Uganda Human Rights Commission comes up with such a report, I think those are subjected to investigation. But many of those are not by Uganda Police Force. I remember those days we were doing out some investigative journalism. They will tell you, we didn't pick this person.
Yes.
We don't have this person. Go to these security agencies, which is not police. For police, for them, they are usually in this beating, manhandling, you know, issues where you come, instead of coming and recording statements from people. I think sometimes we use excessive force why it shouldn't be used. And that is why we find that police finds itself topping this list. Let's have reasonable force. Let them be more professional. And also understand, there's that humaneness, sense of judgment that I think sometimes is lacking.
Well, you know what they say, when the rights of every person are diminished, it's because the rights of one man are definitely threatened. And of course, you know that as any country, you cannot achieve sustained peace and development when the rights of your people are not respected. Well, we're yet to see what comes out of this report that was released by the Uganda Human Rights Commission. And of course, the respective parties come through and respond, because Ugandans need to know what is the way forward after seeing all these, cases, after seeing an increase. What is going to be done? What are the actions that are yet to be taken to make sure that people are respected in all forms, especially when it comes to their human rights? That's it for our Good Morning Uganda newsreel. We'll be getting back shortly to get into the papers. That's of course for the press review. The Daily Monitor will be also looking at the New Vision, not forgetting the Daily Nation. Later on, I'll be taking you to the roads to look at the traffic updates. And of course, Mollen will be here to give you more from the arena of climate. And we'll be having GMU agenda also queued up. And Ruben will also be here to give us some of the sports updates. Good morning, Uganda. We'll be back.
Even with my grandson, a doctor at my side, I struggled to get the help I needed. But he saw something that day. He began to work day and night. He wouldn't quit, even when people said no. He wouldn't stop fighting. He knew something had to change, and his vision was bigger than anyone could imagine. He made it possible to receive quality medical services anywhere in Uganda by simply using a phone.
This is a story of a regular Ugandan just like you, who harnessed the power of technology to provide a solution for us. How about you tell us your story? UG needs more of you. To share your story, visit airtel.co.ug/UG needs more of you, or call or SMS 162. Airtel, the smartphone network.
We bring you a fresh, well-researched program to help you identify opportunities for investment, job creation, growing your entrepreneurial skills, wealth creation, and social transformation.
We have a product that is ready for schools, supermarkets.
Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Every week we showcase opportunities for creating new products and services.
I now harvest a lot of cocoa. When I harvest it, I sell. After selling, I put money in my project. I have two projects. One is for construction of my house. Two is for educating my children.
Excellence in innovation, the passion and drive to succeed, and the right mindset to grow your business. Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Brought to you by Operation Wealth Creation.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone and enjoy free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 Uganda shillings. That's free 2 GB for the first month and free 1 GB for the next 11 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings with free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 shillings only. Airtel, the smartphone network.
The Tales of Kasozi, brought to you by Uganda Communications Commission.
Hello? Hello? This is Kasozi. How can I help you?
Hey, Kasozi, my brother. Long time. We last met when we were at campus. It's been a while, but you are the person I'm looking for.
Campus? Really?
Hey! You don't remember me?
Okay, so how can I help you?
I'm stuck in Gulu making millions and I need to urgently send money to my sick mother. But I can't find any mobile money agent near me. I've sent the money to your phone, as you can see the message. It might take a few minutes to come through, but I urgently need you to send the money to my mother. Let me send you her number and you send it to her chap.
My friend, I'm afraid your mom is going to die.
What?
Because I don't know you, I never went to campus, and I'm also in Gulu. So can we meet at CPS, we talk about it?
Stay tuned for what Kasozi does next.
Tofera. Refrain from unnecessary engagements with strangers over the phone. This message is powered by the Uganda Communications Commission.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, taking you through our papers in the press review, we take a look at what is making the headlines in the New Vision. And the big headline over there is DRC soldiers flee to Uganda as town falls. And that is, of course, the DRC question. Coming in from the M23 rebels spokesperson who says that they captured the Bunagana border town, and of course this was at about 8:45 a.m. yesterday. Now you can catch the full story, also giving you the pictures over there, showing you quite a scene over at the border post there in Bunagana. Now in more news, we look at health probes, teens ill health after COVID jab, and Ugandans demand useful new budget, which is of course expected to be read today, and how COVID-19 has shattered dreams, all that in the Daily Monitor. And of course in the Prosper pullout, higher interest rates loom as banks face more bad loans. Catch that full story still in the Daily Monitor, and of course more tenders for you. Now moving on to the second page of the Daily Monitor this morning, we take you to the archives, and of course we are seeing the president of Kenya, then of course Mwai Kibaki, and also being received by then Uganda's vice president Gilbert Bukenya. What was the event all about? That is why you need to get the Daily Monitor. Now today in history, King Kabalega fighters battle British soldiers. That was back in 1872. Also in history, Congress adopts Stars and Stripes the same day in 1777. Well, get the Daily Monitor to get all these stories and more.
And in the New Vision for this morning, they lead off with a story on finance unveils shillings 48 trillion budget today. That is, of course, detailed on page 4 and 5 of the New Vision for this morning. But also CID probes students' bus saga. They have the CCTV footage of the journey retrieved. Police asks for the list of students on the bus. And of course that story is detailed on page 3 of the New Vision. I'll also give you a big picture right there. Hundreds flee DRC fighting. Of course the Congolese refugees right there who fled into Uganda, that is at Bunagana border, showing you pictorial of that. But in the New Vision for this morning as well, fistula numbers skyrocket in Zombo. Details on pages 39 and 40 of the New Vision. Muhakanizi shillings 10 billion land compensation illegal. Of course, with details on page 7 of the New Vision for this morning. UPDF to recruit 10,000 LDUs. Details on page 8. And of course, heading over to court, mother blocked from exhuming body. That is on page 12 of the New Vision for this morning. But also looking over to the second page of the New Vision, they give you a big picture right there. 13-year-old tops AC writing competition as, they receive that gift right there. But also today in history, man arrested over death of a Mac student. That was in June 14th, 1999. Now still in 2002, Russia ends arms treaty. That is, of course, in the New Vision for today. Strategic plan launched to skill empower farmers. That is also in on page 2 of the New Vision.
Well, moving on to the Daily Monitor Sports this morning, we'll look at Bermuda Jersey Alibirds in town. Now, if you're wondering what these teams are or what they are, definitely we are looking at the Jersey Cricketers attack to the Lugogo Cricket Oval on Sunday. This was on Sunday, showing you a pictorial format over there, so you can catch that full story. And still looking at sports, S-Men forfeit final women win. Why? How? More reason for you to get the paper. Now in football, Haaland arrives at City as Liverpool take Nunez. Well, that must be very, very interesting. Now also triumphant Bull Dream On. New Uganda Cup champions say they will compete in the CAF as players share cash bounty. It's always the cash bounty that really interests very many people and probably motivates them. So we're hopeful that we'll be seeing more wins in the next tournaments that will be coming through. So, and that's it for the Daily Monitor Sports this morning.
Well, in the New Vision Sport Inside, giving you cyclists are prepared. Well, that is also more detailed. But also the Uganda Athletic Federation Assistant General Secretary Namayo has described the team of Uganda's performance in African Senior Championship as fair. Now, that is after they picked some of the medals right there. They give you a picture of Rachel Chebet, who was Uganda's lone star at the Africa Senior Athletics Championship, as she won a silver medal right there. But also vital exposure, they're giving you Ugandan athletes compete during a trial at Nambole earlier this year as they were preparing for the championship. And also good lesson from the Kwibuka Women's T20 as the Victoria Pearls are looking to build on momentum they got after defeating Nigeria on Sunday to try and realign their quest for the 2022 Kwibuka Women T20 Championship right there. And in the new vision, also how to become an elite swimmer within Ntinda. That is on the second page of sports right there. They're giving you some of the inspiration from our swimmers right there, and more details in the new vision sport for this morning.
Well, taking you to the Daily Nation this morning, a lot is happening there. I must say that things are getting a little bit tight and tough for the Kenyans as they await their elections, and this is in the Decision 2022. Looking at the degree battle and quite a whole lot of controversy for Johnson Sakaja. We're looking at Cleophas Malala. We're looking at Granton Semboja, Simba Arati, and I mean the list is endless. Now, Forensic Lab to boost war against crime. That is another story you should look out for in the Daily Nation. And teachers with higher qualifications set for promotions and pay rise. Well, I must say that teachers are quite making the news in the region. Now, focus on Machako's battle of political titans as Warinya and Muthaima Waita and Maliti Jia up for tough governor contest. And that is also on page 19 of the Daily Nation. 55 days to go, official countdown. Now, former 4-girl salon death ends in death by a police bullet. That story should be something that you can catch. Well, moving on to the traffic updates this morning, we are looking at areas in the Nakawa division where we're looking at Mbuya, we're looking at Chireka, we're looking at Chirinya, we're looking at Bogolobi, all these areas that will definitely lead you into town. But also just a reminder, our poll question is over there on our Twitter, where we do want to hear from you. Share your expectations, your thoughts, your insights on the national budget that is going to be read much later on today. What are your expectations from the new budget to be read today? And of course, we'll be running it live here on UBC TV, so you don't have any reason to miss whatsoever. Now, as we go to the roads, I must say that these areas are really quite very busy this morning, because I can see the traffic spots of most of these roads being painted in red. Now, if I'm going to start from Chireka, I must say that Chireka Road is very busy this morning and very heavy with traffic. Now, for several parts of this road are all tinted in red showing that the traffic is very heavy on this very given at this given moment in this given spot. When you look at this spot over here, when you look at this one, and when you look at this very densely, it's quite heavy with whatever is there, maybe the motorists, maybe the cars, cyclists and whatnot. It's very heavy, and it all comes from this side, Chireka. All this road, I must say, it's really engaged this morning. Now, if this is your usual route to town, definitely you have to be in the know. But also it covers for the people using it to get into town, but also people using it to leave the town to head to their respective places. And when you move on to Chinawataka Road, Chinawataka Road is a bit shows that you can navigate without any disturbances, without any hindrances. For this moment, I must say that there is no traffic on this road. The green lines clearly show that this is an area that you'd ideally, or this is a road you'd ideally choose to use this morning, depending on where you're heading. So I must say there is no big problem there. However, when you look at some other places like Mbuya, you to worry about, because it's quite painted in green. I must say that would be good news for the people who use that route. Remember, we are focusing on the Nakawa division. Now, when we join Ismail Road, of course, is also a road away from Chireka. It's a detour that you can take off Chireka Road to help you join the New Port Bay Road. Ismail Road is very busy this morning. The red dots, the red spots are quite very, very many. And I must say they cover up for the biggest part of the stretch, as quite evident from here. All of this line is painted in red, showing this would be a no-go area for you. So if there are any alternative routes that you have around here or other shortcuts, be a green light for you to use this. When you look at Chwatu Road, it's also very heavy with traffic. It's actually not heavy, it's not basic heavy, it's really heavy, because this transitions from red to maroon, and maroon clearly shows you that maybe this is just this morning. You can always come back. Now, joining to New Port Bay Road, of course, which brings in people from other areas. I'm talking about Chitintali, I'm talking about Luzira and very many other areas. I must say it's also very heavy with traffic this morning. All this red and all the orange, all the maroon is what you can find on the stretch, meaning that there must be quite some chaos over there. So if you haven't yet come from these areas, try to plan accordingly. Now, of course, for the rest of this road, the New Port Bay Road is actually quite a freeway for you after you have, of course, navigated through the heavy traffic, and as you're trying to join the main road, which is the Kampala Jinja Highway, which also has quite some heavy traffic this morning and some spots where the traffic is starting to build up. Now, that means that any minute from now, the traffic could be very heavy, or you could find it already when it has already disappeared. But I mean, the chances for that are very, very low, seeing as very many people are trying to find their way to town. Well, that's it from the traffic updates this morning. I now leave you to Mollen to give us what is happening, especially in the climate and weather arena. I don't know, Mollen, what are we looking at for this very specific Tuesday morning?
Well, it looks like this morning is actually mostly dry across the country. It seems like lately we do have reduced wet weather activities across most areas. However, we could be looking at a few rains coming through, especially for areas across Lake Victoria. And of course, those are usually because of the local effect, that influence from Lake Victoria. Otherwise, the rest of the country seems to be pretty kind of dry and a little bit sunny for this morning.
I must say, people are already complaining of the dust because the sun is not really doing us any justice. But I mean, we've come from a season where we had a few drizzles here and there. So seeing that we are getting into that sunny or the hot season, I think we need to be ready mentally and physically.
Yes, we have to. We have to, because we could be looking at more days with dusty roads and all that across it. And of course, that comes with the dry season that is usually experienced across Uganda in the period of June up to August. But we will be getting into the weather update for today, tapping in from our satellites. For now, let's take a look at what is happening internationally when it comes to climate news. Well, this is week 2 of the Bonn Conference, and this is the annual Bonn Conference, which is an important moment in the international efforts to talk about climate change. That is what so far the world is doing to make sure we tackle the effects of climate change, especially in terms of mitigation and adaptation. Now, this started on the 60th of June and of course expected to go up to the 16th of June, and that of course is aimed at making sure that countries are delivering on what they are promising on. Now, this conference is the one opportunity between COPs to bring together all the 197 parties to the UNFCCC. Well, we're talking about the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And now being between COPs, we're talking about the COP26, which was in Glasgow last year, and of course the COP27, which will be in Egypt. Now, this conference is expected to deliver on how far countries have moved from the Glasgow Pact into the outcomes of COP27, and that is of course the working groups that are expected to be working this week and also get us results of what this conference is all about. Now, what is needed is that the Glasgow Climate Pact is supposed to be a delivery, not just a pact that is out there. We need action on what was agreed upon within the pact, and also to help accelerate the work necessary to reach a negotiated outcome at COP27 as we head to Egypt. We need to be looking at more of what we will be doing to cut emissions of greenhouse gases, of course, and obviously limiting the global warming. And now that we are also adding to the Paris Agreement, which was one of the biggest, agreements in history for us to reach when it comes to climate change. And that was, of course, stipulating the fact that we should keep global temperatures to well below 2 degrees centigrade, especially targeting 1.5 degrees centigrade. But from what we are seeing even right now, we could be crossing that line, and the window is just small. We're only worried that we might not reach that. But of course, efforts are going on, and seeing that the Glasgow Pact is still running, adding to the Bonn conference, we could be looking at a very, very highly anticipated COP27 in Egypt this year. And of course, that is one that we'll be expecting a lot when it comes to action, adaptation, what developed countries are doing, especially on their pledges to finance adaptation in developing countries. Of course, the vulnerable countries like the islands that have been battling effects of climate change. Just this year alone, we did see a lot of, I'll take an example of Madagascar. They have dealt with over 4 tropical storms developing over the Indian Ocean. Those are the islands that we're talking about. Those are the areas that we're talking about that need relief in terms of financing them, especially with adaptation. How are they going to cope up with these changing weather patterns? Because it is evident right now that we're not going to run away from that. Obviously, there is going to be extreme weather events, but how we cope with that is the issue at hand. And of course, much more of those efforts will be coming through as we head for COP27 in Egypt. But also in more news, there has been a lot happening in terms of heavy rains that is across Yellowstone. Now, this is an area that is a tourist area across areas of Montana, and they are looking at breaking records in 34 years. This is the first time that this area has been closed off due to flooding, mudslides, and of course with the roads being cut off from the heavy rains that slid through Sunday into Monday. This is across Yellowstone National Park, one of the tourist attraction centers over the area that of course stretches from the US's Montana and Idaho. That area is going to remain closed through Monday into from Monday. It was closed on Monday. Now it's going to be closed through today into Wednesday. According to local authorities, they are saying that this could be affecting a lot, as this is one of the major tourist places, and for 34 years this has not happened, except now they're looking at more of these rains coming through and could be destructive for this season. And of course, so far there are no reports of death, but of course the damages are to the roads, bridges, and other facilities that are yet to be determined by the local authorities, according to the reports that are coming through to the news reporters right there in the areas. And of course, we're talking about more of these extreme weather events coming through and breaking records. Talk about years of having normal weather, but now this seems to be above normal, like meteorology stories put across, something that is out of the ordinary or out of what you have been experiencing in the area. But also in more news coming through is a heat wave alert that has come through across most areas within Europe. But most of what is coming through, even from the satellites that were captured by Copernicus, and of course that is indicating fire danger forecast. That was for 14th of June 2022. Now, most of the highlighted regions, if you take a look at that map, the darker colors from pinkish orange, those are the areas. And of course, what is highlighted most is Spain. Now, so far we're seeing that Spain has actually given an advisory, a red alert, for people to stay indoors, especially as deadly temperatures are expected. And this could be one of those in history that is indicating such a big heat wave. And what is interesting about this year's heat wave across Europe, or even parts of Spain that are already in the highlight, is that it did come in early. Usually there are higher temperatures for this time of the year, but nothing to stretch a heat wave towards this kind of time, especially earlier on as the season kicks off. The red alert has been issued, and of course people are advised to stay indoors and have a lot of water to avoid more that could be coming through. But also they're saying numbers are going up, breaking records at that point, and we could be looking at much more of that heat wave stretching into the season as we talk about the rest of June. But of course we'll be following up much more of that in the details. We want to also come back home here and take a look at what is happening across the country. We will be tapping in from a satellite that is from UMITSAT satellite, overlooking what is happening across Africa. And of course, we're talking about a reduction in wet weather activities. Obviously, that is more stretching from the fact that we have a lot of pressure systems that are developing across Africa, and of course that is affecting our weather. Now, looking closely at that Africa map, you will see the deeper colors of red to yellow. Those are moving, especially if you take a look at the one over South Africa, that is indicating frontal systems, which are low pressure systems. Now, whenever those are there, they are affecting the systems that do push rainy conditions towards a country. That means they're weakening these systems and there is not a lot of moisture coming towards the country. That explains the reduction in wet weather activities that we have been seeing lately, and of course across most areas. Now, that is also coupled with some of those low pressure systems that are over the Indian Ocean, that is towards coastal East Africa. Those are also helping to reduce wet weather activities, and of course not in a good way. Now, those develop over the Indian Ocean, which means that they are taking all the moisture that would be flowing in towards the region, East Africa. So that is also leaving a gap in terms of wet weather conditions. Even if when you look at areas of Kenya and Tanzania, especially coastal Kenya and Tanzania, that has also had to deal with dry conditions for this region with reduced wet weather, meaning that once those systems start to move away, maybe we can hope for more rains. That also affects Uganda as well. But while we still have those low pressure systems over the area, we might still be talking about a reduction in rains and of course more of dry weather coming through. And like we were mentioning earlier, we might be looking at more of the dusty roads or the dust across that we will be expecting to push through, especially as we're talking about the dry season for June to August. But this morning, overlooking what is happening in Uganda, where you see open grey skies right there, those are sunny conditions, mostly across the Karamoja region, parts of eastern Uganda, northern Uganda, as well as areas within Midwestern that are dealing with a pretty sunny morning. However, we do have clouds that are starting to develop across West Nile, that is parts of Arua, Yumbe, Nimule. We're looking at cloudy weather, and that will be bringing us rains for this morning across West Nile. Also, we do have one that is stretching from Lake Victoria that is headed over to the islands, especially for Kalangala this morning. We'll be dealing with rains over there, and that system looks to be heading westwards. That will be taking in parts of the western part of Lake Victoria, but also we do expect that to die off later as we head into the afternoon. Now, the general forecast does indicate reduced weather for today, and we could be looking at much more of those dry conditions stretching across Uganda. Now, taking a look at a wider map, that is in terms of our forecast for today, it still indicates areas of Lake Victoria Basin forecasted to have wet weather activities, where you see those light blue colors, and also parts of western Uganda, that is towards areas of Fort Portal and Toroko. We could be dealing with rains today, but the rest of the country is expected to remain equally dry, and temperatures will of course be equally high, especially for areas of northern Uganda and the eastern part of the country. Well, that is it in terms of weather and nature for this morning. We'll be getting into the updates, of course, as we continue with our daily segments here, especially how this season is going to be faring in terms of the weather. Well, we do have Good Morning Uganda agenda that will be coming up, and later on we'll be having sports highlights. But don't forget, you can catch us on our social medias. The hashtag is UBCGMU. We are also streaming live on YouTube. That is UBC Television Uganda. My name is Mollen, Kenyena. I want to wish you a wonderful morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Simply deposit 20K or more on your mobile money for a chance to win 3 Toyota Succeeds and money to 2,000 lucky winners every week. We're giving away 24 cars and over 2 billion shillings of mobile money.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Wolves are amazing animals, but they are also known for killing farm animals like chickens and sheep.
Last night, my roommate called, saying she was hurt, so I rushed home, but she was fine. It was just a joke.
That's Nicole for you. She's done that to me before, too. It's risky to cry wolf like that again and again.
Yeah, one day she might really need help, and you know what? We won't be there.
A long time ago, a shepherd was bored while guarding his sheep. So, for fun, he would shout, "Wolf!" Each time, villagers ran to help him. And each time, they found no wolf. Well, then a wolf really did attack. But when the boy cried, "Wolf!" no one came. You can probably guess how this story ends. And that's English in a Minute.
Football packages, great entertainment, sports, local content, telenovela, the movies. There is something for everybody. Everybody, Go TV. This is where great stories live.
Get the best entertainment for any budget. With GoTV, you will have great entertainment for as little as 13,000 Uganda shillings per month. GoTV, great stories, Zidiwano. GoTV Uganda, love it.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone and enjoy free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 Uganda shillings. That's free 2 GB for the first month and free 1 GB for the next 11 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings with free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 shillings only. Airtel, the smartphone network.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
A lovely morning to you once again, and thank you so much for keeping with us here on UBC TV. Exactly 4 minutes past 8. Hoping you're near to your work destination, and thank you for carrying us wherever you are, because now we are on YouTube and you can watch us at your time of convenience, even if you missed a part or a segment of this show. I'm Robert Kirabo, Nyonyintono. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Agenda. Now today is the national budget reading of this country, but also within the East African community, a number of countries chose to do this together. So we'll be reading ours, Kenya will be doing the same, Rwanda, and hopefully Tanzania will be doing the same as we read our budget. And joining me on set is the man I usually refer to as Budget. That is Julius Mukunda, who happens to be the ED Civil Society budget advocacy group that do so much in ensuring that we have at least our priorities captured in our budget. Now this year we are looking at a budget of a tune of 48.1 trillion. That is what we plan to have and plan to spend, because the budget is an ordinary word. It's just like you. What you plan to get is your expected income and planned expenditure. So that is what is going to be read to us today. And I know everyone has their concerns. This, that, that this. But Julius, for me, I want to begin at an angle. When I hear the budget, my first concern is not revenue. Because if you've been following, you know all that. My biggest concern is always, what is our contribution domestically, domestic revenue? Because that's where I know they are going to squeeze me. If you're going to fund your budget domestically for over 54%, fellow Uganda, that's about 25 point something trillion that you're expected to get from Ugandans. Otherwise, how have you been, Julius?
It's been great.
You're preparing to go for leave.
We are prepared. Yeah, it's been working hectic up and down. We are also extremely happy that a number of things have been captured in the budget. Our efforts have not been in vain. And I think this is
so that we can hold you accountable to the nature of budget that is finally going to be rolled out.
No, but you know, it is me and you working hard to make sure that our government can spend the way.
Civil society advocates for budget. CS bag. You guys, whatever fellow Ugandans, if you have the good budget, look at them. If the budget doesn't favor you, look at them. They do advocacy right from grassroots. CS bag is there.
We try, and we are very happy that. By the way, of late, if you compare today 5 years ago, you'll find out that a big majority of Ugandans really want to understand where money is coming from and where it is being spent. People get angry when they see money being wasted, because previously people would say, I've been to be a government, but now people are getting to understand that actually this is my money. And I think it is very important that each and every individual, wherever we are in our own capacities, we are able to demand accountability from government. And as such, I think for me it's very, very important that each and every Ugandans get interested. Today is a budget speech day. Please, out of the 365 days in a year, take off only around 6 hours to listen to what the minister is going to say today, beginning at 2. That's what is going to happen.
Yes, we see financial times are hard, but our budgets consecutively are increasing. We have 44.7, now 48.1. When you look at the previous years, our budgets keep on increasing, and our domestic revenue keeps on increasing. We had 22 point something trillion for the ending financial year. Now you have 25.1 trillion this year. Talk about this increment.
Actually, when I was coming here, I wanted to look back. In 1990, how much money were we collecting as Uganda Revenue Authority? We were collecting around 133 billion Ugandan shillings. 133 billion Ugandan shillings. Today, we are talking of 22.8 trillion. The ending financial year, and we are telling them, please, we need extra 3 billion to come to 25.
About an increment of 7.4.
Yes. So for me, really, it has been an incredible journey for Uganda in terms of trying to be self-sustaining and to collect.
So do you say this depicts economic growth?
Definitely, it depicts economic growth. It depicts more Ugandans paying taxes. It depicts that the businesses have grown and they can able to contribute to the national coffers. It also depicts efficiency in collecting taxes. You know, you remember those days when smuggling was the order of the day. Now when you hear about it, people are like, whoa, what has happened? Because everybody now knows that when you smuggle in, you distort the market. And I would give you an example. I remember Charles Onyango boy made a comment and said they bought ink for monitor. And they found out that they could not use all of it. So they wanted to resell it in the market. Only to realize that when you go to the market, that their price was almost 100% more than what the market people were selling, simply meaning that people in the underground were smuggling. So you distort the market, businesses start to fail, others close, others actually leave the country and go somewhere else. So you want to give that grade and say, we have come a long way in terms of collecting taxes, in terms of us be self-sustaining. And I can tell you there is no free lunch. Nowhere. There is no government which stands up and says, oh, Uganda, we love you so much. You know, get some money. No. Anything that is given to you is going to be paid in a different way. And it is like even to be more expensive. So, to me, it is something we celebrate. But also, is to see ourselves and say, could we do better? I think that's also another area we can say, okay, could we? Yes, we should be doing better because we are around at 13.1% tax to GDP ratio. Our potential, according to World Bank, is between 19 and 23% of our GDP. Sub-Saharan average is around 16%. So we are still below. An indication that we are still having pockets of those who are not paying their right share of taxes. And that's why some of us, we say, I think you need to invest in collecting taxes. We have one URA officer to collect taxes from 77,000 taxpayers. It will be a miracle that one person can do it for each and everybody. So yes, we are collecting more money. This time around, and that's why I'm saying some of the things this financial year, we are a bit happy in terms of a number of policies. One is that the government has not increased tax rates. Neither has it introduced new taxes. And this is on the background of saying we are recovering. You can't see a patient who is just coming out of the hospital trying to recover and you give them more tasks to do. You will take them back to the intensive care. And I think government realized that and said, let's first hold on to introducing new taxes. Let's first hold on to increasing rates. Because when you have been increasing rates, the same people who have been paying taxes are the same people
that you press harder.
That you are pressing harder.
Now, Julius, you're talking about ensuring that we have effective measures in collecting tax. The year ending, the financial year 2021, 2022, we had domestic revenue to a tune of about 22-point-something trillion that we are expected to collect from the public. This time around, we have a tune to about, that is 25.7 trillion that is expected. And rightly you say the economy is recovering. Yesterday, Ministry of Health comes up and says COVID cases are increasing. You know, they're on a rise. You've masked yourself. If it wasn't for social distancing, I would. And we know what this means. People in the business community are telling you that things are hard. Even with government initiatives of giving at least revolving fund and all this, still business is getting, the rate at which businesses are recovering is too slow. We are saying we need 25.7 trillion from the public. We are funding our budget to a tune of about, that is 54%. Are we going to hit our target? I will tell you, I think that should be $1 trillion to what they had estimated.
Yes, I'm not a believer in targets. Because you see, you will give me on the URA targets. Why I'm not so much interested in these targets so much? Because you set a target when I was a normal running person. But now I can't even take a kilometer because I'm already being hit by COVID. That's number, and that's done. We have all these distortions in the market. You know, you have Ukraine that has also come up. You have elections in Kenya, by the way. During elections, when Kenya coughs, we sneeze somehow. So, but are we collecting more? And since 1999, there has not been any year that URA has collected less than previous year. Nothing. Even during COVID, these guys have been able to even collect more money. But I think for me is, with this now bad news coming in, that COVID is coming back, it's really a very big concern. And it is about how government is going to handle it. One is that now we know what COVID is. We know what it can do. The capacity of Ministry of Health to manage it has improved, definitely. The capacity of individual person, me and you, on managing COVID has also improved. We are aware on what to do when you get it. That's why other countries now no longer even require testing. United States now has actually, by yesterday, they had finished. They said you can enter without tests. They no longer need COVID tests. Even more countries are doing that. Why? Because countries have the ability now to manage the spread. But in terms of businesses, definitely is what is government going to do that is likely to impact the business. First is, if you think of a lockdown, we are dead on arrival. because even the little that is happening is definitely going to walk away. So I would really urge government instead to increase awareness and discipline, do the social distance we are talking about, enforce wearing of masks, especially in public. So, because those are some of the ways in which they think the COVID is coming.
Even vaccination, that's for immune.
Then vaccinate. And I think for me is, and I told you last time that people would say mindset change. I'm like, what are you talking about, mindset change? But when you see a parent who has refused to take her kid to school because she or he wants the daughter to get married and they get the bride price, they don't value education, then you know the importance of mindset change. And also mindset change in terms of vaccination. Some people say, no, we don't want to vaccinate because when you vaccinate, you die. When you vaccinate, these things happen. Let us follow science and see where science is going to take us. I think for me that's very critical and very important. Everybody to get vaccinated, because once you do that, then our immunity spread reduces, infections don't affect you more than it would have done. So that is something that we need here to look up to in terms of ensuring that COVID does not affect businesses so much.
Now, also interesting in this budget is domestic borrowing. That is what you know about 27%. We know one of the biggest challenges for these businesses today in the recovery process is they want liquidation. They want cash. And what economic borrowing does is creates competition. Anyone would want to lend to government, not so?
Yes.
And the private sector. What does this mean, borrowing of this tune by government of this percentage at such a time?
So let us make it the contextuate properly. Is that out of the 48.1 trillion, only 30 trillion is available for spending by government of Uganda. The other balance, around 17.9, is for debt repayment and also is for debt servicing. So you already see that chunk, 17 trillion is for that. And out of that, you have around 6 trillion for interest rate payment. Now, Ugandans must also note that what we have been arguing is that borrowing is not bad, only when you are utilizing it in the right way and spending on the right things. But also, what type of loan are you getting? The quality of the loan is also very important. And I think that's the question you're asking. Government is borrowing domestically. In fact, in the next financial year, government is likely to borrow around 4.9 trillion. Because now, when you remove this money, because domestic borrowing means that they are picking money from Uganda.
Where I would also go.
Where me and you can
borrow,
go.
yes.
Where these businesses can go. You are picking this money from Uganda. It means that the bank that has money to invest, because banks major role, and I told you, there is no free lunch. A bank is not there to give you money so that you can be a very good person and be rich. No, the bank is giving you money so that it can also make profits from you. But if a bank realizes that you are slightly not likely to pay, or they are going to spend more money to ensure that you pay, then they rather give government, because governments cannot fail to pay. They give money to government. But still that means that even those who are willing to pay, are capable of paying, they find themselves that the money that is available in the market is so little, because government is going to take almost 5 trillion away. It's so little that so many people are competing for this little money. And the basic economics is that if we have more demand than supply, the price shoots up.
So interest rates now are going to
go
shoot
up. Today you will find loans between 25 and 30%. And I can tell you, if you're a business, an SME, and you want to go for that particular loan, you're going to be dead on arrival. Because it is so expensive. The rate of return on that loan is going to be so. That means that first you must make 30% profit for the loan, and then you make another another 10% on that loan to make full profit for yourself. Those are around 40%. So it becomes very expensive. So what we are telling government is leave the domestic market for your private sector growth. And if you look at the government of Uganda, everything is around promoting private sector. We are looking for private sector growth. In fact, they're even now saying it's not just about private sector. We want SMEs also to grow, because more than 90% of employment is just serviced by SMEs, medium, small and medium enterprises. So when government ditches the domestic market and goes for international market, that means that now banks have money to borrow. So those who are good lenders, those who can borrow money and have a very good credit rating, can actually get this money at an affordable price. So that's what it goes, to the extent that even now banks will even further try to look out. We were attending a meeting and one lady was telling us that in these international banks, it's not because you have a bad credit rating that they're not going to give you money. They know you are not likely to pay. So they structure a loan in that particular way. So if I'm good at paying back, they can say, okay, pay back every after 3 months. But if they know you are not, you have problems of paying back, they say, no, we shall give you the money, but please start paying per month. Or please share with us your cash flow on a daily basis, and we see how money is moving. But they will still give you money. So in this country, I think that's what we need also to do, that when the government leaves the domestic market, then there is enough money within the economy for me and you and other small and medium enterprises to borrow at a lesser price. What does that mean? It means that once the credit is low, the interest is low, more private sector companies are able to pay back. So you don't have non-performing loans. You have more companies making profits, employing more people, and also paying more taxes. So that's where you'll find, that's why we are arguing that banks really should ensure that government should get out of the domestic market.
Now, when we look at this budget, we see a reduction in local government allocation. And many people are wondering, what could be the impact of this compared to the previous year, even when many are excited about parish development model?
Yes.
And we know that it's local governments where a service delivery is equally given. I mean, it is the area of implementation.
And by the way, I mean, for me is we should have more money to local governments, because it's the front line of service delivery. These hospitals are not built in Kampala or at the headquarters, or schools, or water points. These water points, hospitals, community roads are in districts. So we want monies to be there. But the biggest challenge is that you have districts that are equivalent of sub-counties. You have sub-counties that are equivalent of parishes. You have parishes that are equivalent of villages. You have a constituency, one district is equivalent to a constituency. So we've split these administrative units to the level that now we can't even afford all of them, that we can't even fund all of them. They are telling me some cities are not functioning, are not giving a budget simply because we don't have the money for them. So we are creating the problem ourselves. Had we maintained the right numbers, we would be having enough money to fund these particular districts. Because I don't know the person in Chisoro, in Koboko, wherever they are, they don't care about what is happening at the national level. All they need is that water point working? Can I reach it very quickly? Is there medicine in the hospital? Is the school functioning? Are the teachers teaching? Those are the basic things that an ordinary Ugandan is looking out for, especially in these days where now the cost of living has tremendously increased. So, my point I'm making is, it is important that we fund adequately local governments. And number two is that let us stop the increase in the number of administrative units. Because more than 70%, even of the money, the 5 trillion I'm going to send, 70% of it is on wage and non-wage, recurrent expenditure, which is not actually even benefiting an ordinary person. So, again, you see the problem that you put up a district. The first thing is you have a cow, a finance officer, an engineer, a water officer, a secretary, a driver. Hey, a LC5 chairperson, the councillors. we are overrepresented, I'm telling you. In terms
so cost of administration versus
cost of
service delivery doesn't
so
match.
And this also boils to the national level, because more than 50% of our entire national budget is on recurring expenses. Because we have to maintain all these technocrats.
Buy expensive vehicles.
So you have to buy them very expensive vehicles, you have to build for them houses, you have to make sure that they travel by business class. And hey, so this boils down to me and you who are paying taxes for such things. If it was me, I wouldn't be able to do that. When President Museveni came to power, one thing he said that all ministers should be driving Raulera. I don't know if you remember those Raulera vehicles. They were all driving Raulera, and there was that Land Rover vehicles. I remember, I've forgotten it, but they were driving Raulera vehicles. They were very nice, cheap vehicles. But today, I don't know how to describe the kind of vehicles we buy. Even when we are saying we are going to middle income status, but I don't think we should be able spending luxury in that particular way. This is the time to be frugal and spending on only those items that concern us.
Julius, let's look at other priorities. You know, when you have a budget, and you have little money, what you prioritize matters. This time we see human capital development taking the lion's share, followed by governance and security. Are we getting our priorities right in terms of allocation?
Two exciting things in this budget that I'm really looking forward to. One is, for the first time, we've made citizens priority in terms of human capital development, 28%. That is education and health, because that's where all the money should be able to go. Of course, there are issues there, but at least we have put it up there. So it means that we are now going to concentrate on ensuring that we have productivity out of Ugandan citizens. They are going to be educated, health services are going to be provided, and I think those are basic minimum things that can be able to have to be first be a bit more productive. The second and the biggest and most exciting one, of course, is the parish development model. You know, to provide 100 million shillings per parish, I think it's just the first, again for the first time, that an ordinary person in Uganda is sharing directly from the national cake. The cake is there and they are dividing it. This is for the citizen of Uganda. It is not going for education, health, roads, security, and internal affairs, and missions abroad. No, 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 no. This is just going directly to the parish. And I'm looking forward for the minister even to surprise me, and he tells me that we have doubled that money, because that is the only way we are going to have local economic development. Will there be challenges with that? Would there be challenges with that? Definitely. Because our biggest challenge, I think, is that if we do not address issues of effective implementation, all these good dreams definitely are like, I would return back here and start lamenting. We really want to make sure that there are no loopholes. We want to make sure that there are no leakages. We want to make sure that money has been sent to the right people. We don't want to hear that, oh, money was sent to a parish that does not exist, or money was sent to a parish that doesn't have a parish development committee. It is not functional. So I really want the Ministry of Finance to be frugal. Send money to only those parishes that exist, ready to implement, are functional, have a parish chief, and also that the parish development committee is there, has been sitting, and has the right priorities. Once we don't do that, I can tell you, we will go back to square one. So I'm excited about those two major
Well, briefly on that, your analysis. How swift are we moving? Because when you look at the Ministry of Finance being able to send monies to these parishes, then to the epitome circle that will send to these enterprises, there are processes you're supposed to go through. Today, you go to some of these parishes and you wonder what is happening. Some will tell you even our chiefs are still a problem. They will tell you organizing communities, these households, to be able to form meaningful enterprises, that where the financial inclusion can come in, is still a problem. Talking about mindset change, this is a pillar I'm yet to understand how it's going to be carried out. Yes. You know, because when you look at levels of growth, because you have a thinking that the people down, you know, they need mindset change. But the technocrats, who is taking them through mindset change, where you still see a person can come before committee and accept publicly, yes, I erred. Probably you talk about 10.6 billion.
No, I remember one minister, you know, who
with said, this mindset change, then as of now, pillar number one, that is production, processing, storage, value addition. How far? I think you are moving at a snail pace.
Yes, and I agree with you. As of now, we are being told that 96% of the parish chiefs have been recruited. But it has taken us almost a year to do that. But also, I'm very happy that Ministry of Finance for the last 2 consecutive quarters has not raised money for parish development model. Because these guys were not there. The thing was still not functional. And I would like Ministry of Finance to continue doing that. Only those parishes that are functional in terms of readiness, and as CSBAG and our partners want to do the readiness part. Which parish is ready? Readiness means that you have a parish chief, that is the number one. That the parish development committee is well constituted as per the guidelines. And that there are enterprises that are ready to be funded. And I think for me, once we do that, then we shall be able to know that you are sending money to the right people. If we don't do that, we shall lose money, like all other programs that most of the programs that have taken place. But I think for me also is that you see, the challenge we have been facing is that priorities have been coming from top. You tell people, I can give you an example. Money used to go to Karangara for construction of roads, and it would come back. But all Karangara needed were construction of landing sites and a few kilometers. But you construct a few kilometers and money comes back, simply because money was meant for, particularly, was made for roads. So you go to Karamoja and others is taking their cassava cuttings. But Karamoja's problem, everybody knows it, it's water. They want as many water points for their animals as possible. So to me is, and when I look at it, is that when you tell communities what you want, they definitely know what they want that is affecting their livelihood, that something can improve their livelihood. And I was telling you that if you go to a village, they will tell you our problem is nothing else apart from marketing. We produce matoke on our own, all we need is to sell matoke to Kampala, because matoke in our district, a bunch is 2,000. In Kampala is 30,000. So give us the money, we hire a truck. Get one of our boys in the village. He goes to Kampala, sells the matoke, he will bring back the money. Others will tell you, no, we want a bull fattening, because that's what they know and that's what they can be able to do. Not some technocrat from Kampala best to come and say, no, you guys, I think you should start rearing geese or start an ostrich farm. Who knows about ostrich in this country? Very few people. So when the people determine their own priorities, they own their own priorities, fund those particular priorities, the likelihood of those enterprises succeeding is so high than when somebody imposes an idea on them. I think also it's important that we need to ensure that since more than 60% of Ugandans derive their livelihood from agriculture, definitely the huge percentage of enterprises are going to be agricultural based. So 2 things are important. One is make sure that we have the right extension. 2, make sure that NARO is funded well to provide the right inputs, because fake inputs in this country has really affected us so much. So if NARO coordinates properly with the NADS and the extension system to ensure that if farmers want the right inputs, there is the hybrids that resist drought, the hybrids that resist the diseases. Then, if farmers are going to grow these crops, the chances that these crops are likely to come out and they harvest and sell and pay back is very high, than them not understanding which kind of hybrid is in town or buying fake inputs. So again, I think is that as we look at the parish model, let us not look at it in isolation. Let us ensure that these other programs can be able to complement it.
Then, Julius, also one of the things when we talk about the budget that runs in the minds of many Ugandans is the issue of debt servicing. At one time, there was an economist who said every Ugandan, if you are to clear a debt, must pay 1.5 million. But of course, people are, to their opinions and their research, you economists, you do your research there, make your calculations and that. But when you look at this budget still, a large percentage is going into this. Can we still handle our debt? And what should be done to avoid it from continuing to rise? We've already, many say, hit the ceiling, about 51%.
No, that one is gone. We broke it.
We broke it. So even if you're going to have a lot of your monies go to clear, service, pay interest.
I mean, I told you, out of 48.1 trillion, 17.3 trillion is just for servicing debt. And it tells you that it's a very big chunk of money. It's a huge chunk of money.
But we continue to compare ourselves with other countries, and we say, no, we are, even in the East African region, we are still doing better than our neighbors here. So we are still the lowest in terms of such a problem.
Yeah, an eyed man among the blind is a king. So probably, but I think for me the point we need to make about debt are majorly two. Number one is the quality of debt we are getting, the quality of loans we are processing in this country, we are accepting. Are they concessional? Concessional means that these are debts that have a very low interest rate, 1 or 2%. That the repayment period is 40 years. Grace period to start paying is like 10 years. And it comes also with a component of the grant. That debt is good for a country because you have a long time to pay. So your installments are very low. So, for example, like interest rate, you are going to pay 6 trillion, for example, interest payments, 6 trillion. That means that if all this was concessional, maybe the interest rate right now would be something like 3 trillion. But because our debt is mixed between concessional and non-concessional, the interest rate is very high. So the other part is, if it is not concessional, then it's non-concessional, meaning that it is commercial, the domestic we're talking about. The percentages are around 10 and above %. You're supposed to pay back start paying back immediately. There is no grant element in it. So you really are doing with it's actually for us, we call them, these are just loan sharks on the down street for government. So government should concentrate on that. But as we now move towards middle income status, concession loans are going to be fewer. Because countries will believe that you are rich enough also to go in the commercial market. That's number one. Secondly, about debt, is how we utilize the debt. Where do we spend debt? If you borrow and organize a wedding, it would be perfect for you, but you're going to pay through your nose. But if somebody borrows and starts an enterprise that is making money, they rough all the way to the bank. So even in Uganda, what are we borrowing for? First is that, yes, we are borrowing for roads, and we have fantastic roads. You can't deny that. Time to move from one corner of the country to another has tremendously reduces, and that reduces the business cost, is the business. The biggest challenge is that it takes us so long to complete a project. In fact, the Auditor General has said that only 40% of our projects are within time, that we can finish it within time, only 40%. The rest, we can't.
As interest rates are accruing.
Yes, so you have the Northern Bypass that was for 5 years. We took 20 years to finish it. You have Busega, Mpiji Express Highway. We are just, I think now they say we have just done only 3% of that particular road. And we are paying commitment fees. We are paying interest rates on the loan that we contracted. You have almost $5.5 billion US of undisbursed loans. That means that you gave me money. I signed the contract that you will give me 10 million. But you will say, I will only give you 10 million if you move 1% of the project. So you give me 1 million to move 1% of the project. But after giving me 1 million, I have not even moved 1%. So the other 9 remains with you. But it is attracting interest on me. So I keep on paying on the money I have not even utilized, which is not even in the country. That is absurd. So our capacity to absorb money is still very limited because we are not well prepared to manage all of this money. Why? You are constructing a road, in the middle of it there is a tree which you had not envisaged. And I think there's one biggest problem we have in this country, right of way. When the road is passing here, the prices on that particular area just shoot up. A plot which was selling 5 million, it is now 500 million. I can tell you that the cost of Kampala Expressway, of resettling people, is more than even the cost of constructing a road. So if we don't deal with those things.
And our laws recently, when there was a bill, I remember Dr. Chris Wadiomusi, when he was all over the media talking about that is a compulsory acquisition of land. You saw it was a hard nut to crack.
Simply because of vested interests. Vested interests. People even claim that they own these plots of land and they have no titles. So even when you want to pay
and I thought even some government officials, when they get to know the program, they go and buy people cheaply.
Completely.
And then they wait for the project. And they hike the prices.
So that kind of
and with the laws, it is all about, remember, willing buyer, willing seller,
yes. Yes. So I think it is sad. It is sad that this is happening in a country where, you know, first you are poor, you need the road, you know, transmission lines. You finish a dam to take electricity to a particular area, but along with the way somebody says you are compensating me less than what I want, and you go to court. You had just the example with the tree. The guys wanted 500 million Ugandan shillings because the spirits, that's what the spirits wanted.
Resettling them.
Resettling them. And I really applaud that magistrate who just gave them 50 million. UNRWA was even giving them 150. They refused it. They said the spirits want 500 million shillings. And the magistrate just looked at the tree and like, how many timber can you get out of here? And he just gave them 50 million shillings. But the point is that if government is not ready to ensure that you can only contract a loan when you are ready to start it, then we'll keep on losing money in these and disbursed loans, in commitment fees. We are paying around 87.7 billion Ugandan shillings on deemed energy, for example. I ask you to construct a dam, and I tell you the amount of electricity you regenerate is what I will pay you. You construct, finish it. But I'm unable to transmit that electricity, but for you start saying transmission was not part of my contract, start paying me today. So I begin to pay you even when electricity is not being consumed, is not being distributed. That's why sometimes I'm like, God really blessed us. We're such a rich country that we're able to pay all these expenses, even when you're not generating resources.
Well, Julius, what are your parting shots? What should we do different in financial year 2022-2023 compared to financial year 2021-2022?
No, I think, first of all, I'm excited to take the budget today. I put on the suit. I was invited to go and attend. But I think for me there are three things which I want the government to do. Number one, let us fix leakages, because that's the most important part. Let us ensure that we fix the leakages. This pen of 100 shillings, it is a government pen, it's 100 shillings. Let everybody use that particular pen. That's part of the leakage. Number two, I want to see the minister really being more concrete on how we are going to overcome the COVID effects, especially for the private sector and the small and medium enterprises. What are we putting in place to make sure that they don't sink further down, especially that now COVID is coming back? And lastly is, I really want to encourage government to continue opening up in terms of participating in these processes, providing budget information, giving citizens an opportunity to provide a feedback so that government can be able to improve. And I think in that way again we are likely to reduce on the expenses, on the losses that we make as a country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julius Mukunda, who is the ED Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, CS-BAG, for that insight as we've been analyzing the budget for this financial year that is going to be presented to Parliament this evening from 2 p.m. While all praise effective implementation. I want to thank you so much, and of course we shall know then how to hold you accountable. When finally the budget is out. You know, most of the times I ask MPs when some laws are made, some bills are passed, like, who told you those things? Who are you representing? Now we want to know civil society.
Yes. Accountability is important. Yeah.
Who are you representing? Well, have a lovely day. Ruben is just around the corner to take you through the world of sports with so many interesting updates there. Have a lovely day. God bless you. Remember, COVID is around. Stay safe, social distance, and above all, the most thing we can rely on is vaccination.
Yes.
Go boost your immune system. Being vaccinated doesn't mean you won't get COVID-19. But what it does is you get that immunity. You could have it, but you're not going to get to the worst, being admitted, then finally dying. You can have COVID, but you can move around. You can continue to stay. So all we need is as many people to get vaccinated. I got vaccinated. I took my first, second, and booster doses. You too can get that. It's free. Walk into any facility, get vaccinated. Have a lovely day. God bless you.